we can get started. It's great to see you all here. And I'm Ann Hendricks Jenkins from the Movement for Community-Led Development. We have all kinds of good things on the plan for today. So we'll go ahead and get started. If you would like to introduce yourself in the chat, it would be great so that everyone can know who's here, and so you can be ready for the breakout groups later to share your ideas. So I am going to share my screen and just give a quick introduction. You should be able to see my screen. So today we are here to talk about community-led development plus food security plus the COVID crisis, and how we might be able to translate all that into truly transformational change. We have introductions right now. And then we're going to hear from Pascal Jahostu, our West Africa coordinator. And if you are not muted, if you could mute yourself, that would be great. If I can figure that out. Sorry, let me just see about muting. Okay, and then we are going to have 3 great presentations from people who and organizations that are already doing local context-driven food security. So we can see what it looks like in action in a very practical way. We'll have some input from the national chapters of the movement who are working on these issues. So we can think about it from a national chapter point of view or a national point of view. And then we're going to have some breakout groups so we can put our heads together and our hearts together to figure out some of the best ways to move this forward. So at the Movement for Community-Led Development, all I'm going to say about it today is that it's about more and better community-led development country by country. We sort of that 3-legged stool mindset. Sorry if I can see that. If you can mute yourself, that would be great. So the 3 legs of the stool, from our point of view, from our 3-legged stool, are civil society, government, and private sector. And the roles that all of them can and should play, in this case, from the point of view of food security, local food security. Today, we're going to apply what Pascal refers to as CLD logic, community-led development logic, to co-create a path forward for sustainable, resilient food and nutrition across countries. And we're going to hear from all kinds of people who have a lot to say. So with that, let me turn it over to Pascal. I'm going to stop sharing. And he can give us the context and overview.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Anne. And welcome again to this virtual meeting, which is about community-led development and nutrition. First, how prominent are the issue of food security and nutrition? And in that regard, let's look at some facts about world hunger and poverty. Over the 7.7 million of people over our planet, 821 million people are chronically undernourished, and 60% of them are women and children. 151 million children are under 5 suffer from stunting due to malnutrition. We could mention more to show that the world hunger and nutrition issues are really prominent and need our attention. Addressing the challenges of hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition in all its forms is a real prominent feature of the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. However, current evidence is showing a rise in all forms of malnutrition, that is undernutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, and obesity. Sub-Saharan African accounts for over 90% of the world's undernourished people, while obesity has become a growing challenge, especially among women in urban areas. The 2020 report made available by Food, Agriculture and Natural Resources Policy Analysis Network, FANAPRAN, from his annual policy dialogue observed that only a few African countries are on track to meet the global nutrition targets for stunting, and Africa is unlikely to eradicate hunger by 2030. COVID-19 and climate change related shocks threaten to erode and reverse the gains made towards ending hunger and malnutrition. In addition to climate change being a present growing threat to food and nutrition security in Africa, and more so to the economies of countries that are heavily reliant on agriculture, COVID-19 has brought on an unexpected and an unimaginable challenge to the food system, disrupting the small flow of agricultural supply chain and the action of many food system players. This has led to the unpredictability of the performance of the already unstable food system. With the additional impact of COVID-19, the performance of the current food system has to be reorganized, to be reviewed, I would say to be reprofiled, to respond to these and any future challenges. This meeting is designed to look at food and nutrition issues through the lens of the movement for community-led development, meaning that we want to look at what is needed to operate, or rather to cooperate a social and transformative change that induce resilience for communities as far as food security and nutrition are concerned. In regard to that, I will mention the following remarks. Remarks 1. How do we value the community aspiration when we talk about food security and nutrition? A healthy and prosperous economy relies on the quality of the partnership between civil society organizations, including communities, the government, that is 2, and 3, the private sector. Such a frame applies here for food and nutrition issues, meaning that food and the nutrition challenge will be taken on a sustainable basis if the community aspiration drives the process of the design, the implementation, including monitoring and evaluation of any project or program related to food and nutrition. The community aspiration drives the needs the needed partnership between community, the government, and the private sector. Remark 2, how do we focus on the driving forces within the community, that is to say, women and youth? And how does the process include marginalized groups? Remark 3, how do we value the community assets in terms of knowledge, biodiversity of all sorts of foods available and used by the community? I will mention local recipes, and so social behavior towards nutrition and food security. I would like to thank you again for the collaboration in organizing this meeting, which I hope will be rich in terms of questioning to move ahead and learning for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pascal. And thank you for that framing. I think it's really going to inform our conversation today. I'd like to ask Agnes to take over. And Agnes, if you would, I have your slides available if you would like me to show them, or you could show them yourself, which is better. And I have your video as well.
I think you share from that end, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, good afternoon. And thank you so much for inviting me to this space. And greetings from the far east of Uganda. I'm in Karamoja right now. And I do believe all will be well. The network connection is not so good, but hope I'm able. Thank you so much, Anne. And thank you so much, everybody. And I thank the keynote opening for this conversation. We have very few minutes and run through. Anne?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, continue with the slides.
Okay.
Yes, continue. That was the opening slide. And these are focus areas. You can run through all of them. We don't need to spend a lot of time because they were very specific to Uganda. I'm going to spend a lot of time on understanding how we are doing it at FRA. Okay. Okay, and I don't think we should spend a lot of time on these thematics, but only to emphasize that if we must achieve nutrition, we must achieve it in an ecosystem, and also be able not only to focus on nutrition as it is, because nutrition is an outcome. It is very, very important that we also address, and I think it is fundamental, that we address the underlying determinants of malnutrition. And therefore, that takes us into looking at the entire ecosystem. Next. Okay, for the case of Uganda, when we look at the actors, the core actors that are in this ecosystem, we decided to put nutrition at the center, and you would realize that there is agriculture that addresses the issues of making the right foods available. There is education that is supposed to give people the right information and on what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat, when and where. There are social sectors, and these social sectors like gender, we all know and appreciate the social dynamics around food and nutrition, stemming way back, like from where I come from, traditionally, for grandparents. The women weren't eating, they were not allowed to eat chicken, they weren't allowed to eat eggs, they could not eat liver. And you see, in other instances, if you serve fish, the biggest part of the fish goes to the household head, and what is remaining is what is being shared between the mother and the children. So the social dynamics that come around food and nutrition, not only at consumption level, but also at accessibility level, the ability to have your right to food in terms of having access to food that you have produced or means of its procurement. And we know the disparities, the income disparities between women, men, those living with the chronic illnesses, those with the disability, and so on and so forth. The health aspect is obvious because when everybody has failed, the human being requires rehabilitation. And this is where health comes in handy. Unfortunately, in many cases, health comes in late when the issue of reinstalling the situation or addressing and taking the human person back to track is impossible. Then the issue of trade, and we know how trade is influencing issues of accessibility of food, but also limiting the nutrient intake. In Uganda here, we have a very interesting study of the integrated food security phase classification, we always abbreviate it as IPC, that revealed in 2017 that the areas of Eastern Uganda, specifically a region called Teso, they were not very rich in diversity, but they performed better on nutrition status. And another region in the Rwenzori region, Rwenzori Mountain, that end, they have a very rich diversity of foods, but they performed badly and poorly on malnutrition. Reason being that area has a growing city and all of the nutrient-dense foods are leaving communities to come to the market. But also our nutrition is in the market. People substituting food to supplements, and so on and so others and so forth, including the factors of production for food that are in the marketplace. So trade is of paramount importance. And also lastly, I can talk about water and environment, the natural resources subsector, because in Africa, by the way, we never had, eating was not about the 3 meals or the 4 meals. Especially for children, eating was so long as you're not sleeping, you were eating. And how was it possible to do that? It's because we had a very rich natural and natural biodiversity to supplement or complement the main staples, and we are having a challenge here. So if we are to say we are going to deal with nutrition or malnutrition in the negative aspect, the issue of biodiversity becomes very, very, very important, because that is how we used not to have malnutrition in the history days of Africa, because children would eat all the way through. And when you hear and read the studies that we are having people are malnourished because of staples, it's not true. The truth is, yes, we had staples, but we had a very rich biodiversity. And therefore, children would be eating on all other foods, including insects and what. By the time they would come to a particular staple, they have had a collection of the rest of the nutrients. So the issue of the ecosystem, and looking at this battle from an ecosystem's point of view, to us, or a food systems point of view, for us, we think it is the way to go. Let us run very fast, Anne. I'm also timing myself here, and I have only 18 minutes. I mean 8 minutes. Now, if we are to talk about COVID and the SOPs to me and to us here, COVID has presented an opportunity as well as a challenge to us who are working on food issues. Of course, the challenge is there were limitations that impacted on farmers' abilities to produce due to lockdowns, and even those that could not access markets. But man, there is a very big opportunity because the food is the frontline treatment and defense mechanism for COVID-19. So for the first time, I think for the so many years I have been working on this particular agenda, the day is for us, and we should really occupy the space. We should make sure that public policy appreciates the issues that we are talking about, because now they are seeing the centrality of food in even dealing with a pandemic like COVID-19 in nature. Run next, Anne. Next slide. Okay, this is the African food pyramid. You can see how rich it is, and it just reaffirms that one, Africa was not malnourished. We used not to have malnutrition until when our food diversity has been manipulated. It is being grabbed to be controlled, and the promotion of staples and the focus on staples. Like, for instance, my brothers and sisters in Kenya, when they talk about ugali, I ask them, but before the introduction of ugali in your food system, what were you eating? And now they have long forgotten about all the foods that they were having, and little by little, this is being pushed even to a rich country like Uganda to make people believe that ugali or maize is the food or a staple. So we had this whole rich, and this whole rich was not being served on a plate during a meal. Just like I said, we were eating all the way through. Let us proceed. But also, as we are proceeding, this is where the actual remedy for COVID-19 is lying. Hunger and malnutrition, and of course, the aspect of poverty. For us at Food Rights Alliance, we agree it is nothing but the lack of access and control over resources to live a life with dignity. So it speaks back to what I told you, that if you're going to look at ending hunger and malnutrition, we must interrogate the issues of access and control over resources. These are social issues, but also putting on the human rights, the new human rights lens of our people to live in dignity. I'm telling you, having any form of malnutrition is not a dignifying situation. Click very fast. Click next. Okay, the other aspect is the issue of power. If you're going to get, I'm going to run through this because we have lost the issue of power. The issue of power is very, very, very important. And we should stop thinking about the issues of addressing hunger and malnutrition are on the farm. There are issues of the equation of the haves versus have-nots. Where are resources being allocated? Where are public resources being allocated? Where is the bulk of the money going? Does it really enable people to have that dignity to feed themselves adequately, or it is dictating otherwise? But we are not also going to be here screaming all the time. We have to awaken the citizenry agency to take up the power within themselves. So the question of power is also another agenda item for us to work on and ensure that the people can have the ability to influence others to take actions on issues that are making them hungry, on issues that are making them malnourished. Finally, we lose seconds in here. The role of CSOs like us. These are some of the broad interventions. The issues of education are very, very important. The issues of communication, let us not leave communication to the corporates, while for us we are disappearing in farmers' farms. The issues of generating information and facts, data, to influence actions in terms of policy, but also in terms of actions. The issues of engagement with alternatives. Let us read from the book of Acts, the books of Exodus, the books of Revelation, and avoid the book of Lamentation. And we present alternatives on the table, but also be changed in terms of programming. What are we doing inside our own organizations, but also on a daily basis? And next. Click, 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 click. Click. I'll not talk about resources and how they are linked to decision-making and utilization, but also I wanted to talk about the conceptual actions. The conceptual actions that we need to take, and some of them is ensuring that the resources are available, undertaking actions that address the pushing factors that are causing populations in thousands and millions to go hungry and causing us to undertake interventions, and also interventions to address the consequences of not taking actions. And some of these interventions, like addressing the basic needs of the people, we should not run away from that. You cannot tell a hungry person about nutrition. They just want to fill the stomach the first day. So the issues of the basic needs, you cannot forget about them in this struggle, even when people are refugees. The issues of critical awareness, and then the people having solidarity and taking advocacy by themselves. I wish to end here. And I had shared a small 1 minute advert. I don't know if it eventually got to you, but as a team on MLCDAs, please let us continue mobilizing communities. That is the small 1 minute video. It is our message that we have been running across. You can take it for free because we want to promote food as an aspect of ending COVID-19.
I'm not sure if the sound is going to work here, but I noticed you have subtitles in case the sound doesn't work. So let's see this. Wow, so that is amazing. Thank you. And thank you for offering to share that. Much appreciated. And for that incredible talk where you take so many variables and pull them all together in one framework. It's so incredible. Thank you, Agnes. Let's go right to Amy and Nuru, and then we'll have time for questions and comments later as well. So Amy, are you ready to talk?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good
Can
afternoon.
you see the slides?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Pascal, and every other development partner that is seated here. My background will be a bit noisy because I'm in a summit, and then so there are a lot of people around busy going back and forth. So I apologize for that before I start. I will walk us through 10 minutes of my slide is quite short, and I'll just take 10 minutes to walk us through. And Agnes, thank you for that wonderful presentation from Uganda. So the Nuru Nigeria project is basically built on building community resilience. And this it is battered because of the existing conflicts that are in northeastern Nigeria. As we already know, it is no longer news that northeastern Nigeria is a fragile state, and then there has been disrupted livelihood, and the people of northeast have gone through a lot of shocks and stressors. So Nuru Nigeria is here to build the resilience capacity of those people. Next slide, please. The main objectives of Nuru is to build locally led solution. I just remember what Pascal said about community aspiration and then community drive. That is the core driving factor and the core driving principle on what Nuru builds intervention. So it is locally led solution. It is to eradicate extreme poverty among rural vulnerable households. It is to increase household income and then diversify livelihoods, to build resilience corridor in the Northeast, increase social cohesion, provide meaningful choices for people so that they don't join violent extremist organization through a nutrition sensitive agricultural led programming. Next slide, please. I would like to walk us through the Nuru model. The Nuru model is basically very, very inclusive. First of all, one of our operating principle is that the women are the entry point to all our programming. So every program starts with the woman. And as we can see, our program is through farmer association and farmer organizations. So basically to ensure the culture of sustainability, because this is the major thing that is lacking in Africa, and we need to, as development partners and as Africans ourselves, we need to really tell ourselves that we need to grow our industry, like our productivity through a culture of sustainability, and start programming by defining the sustainability plan. We don't give it's not a handout intervention, so basically it's a developmental intervention. We do this approach through two value chain crops, which is soybeans and granite. Now soybeans and granite are well known for their nutrition contribution to the household, basically to children at the age under 5, and then to women who are at maternal age, like to mothers and children, basically in the household. Now, it is also a very good cash crop in Nigeria. So first we do this intervention. It's a loan-based intervention. We give farmers loan. We try to link them up to the market. We ensure that the loans come in, the input loans come in before the planting season and the farmers plant. We ensure that at the point of aggregation, the farmers save up certain quantity of this crop after harvest in their household for household consumption. And then certain percentage of this harvest is being aggregated and given to an off-taker. So Nuru links up the farmers to a market system. They link them up to off-takers, basically companies that are into granite processing and into soybean processing that will give them great value for their money. After aggregation and commercialization, that is when the farmers pay their loan. Next slide, please. We also do this, ensuring that we build the resilience of people. Resilience of people usually comes through different areas of like social requirements that the people need for them to be built, for them to have resilience to the different layers of shock, whether it is health, economical, or climate change, or other natural disasters or man-made disasters that befall a people. So we do a financial inclusion program. However, the difference between the usual financial inclusion program that we have adapted, like during the transformative era of development, with what Nuru does is that Nuru uses a digital platform. Now we have to embrace the use of a digital platform because we are at a post-conflict zone, will I say, and still in conflict. Is still susceptible to conflict. It's a very fragile place. So usually people get their assets lost either through attacks or invasion of the insurgents. So the farmers actually save up money in their savings and loan groups because our intervention is based on farmer association. Farmers aggregate themselves into groups of 10 to 25 members. Our intervention is deployed through that group to ensure that there is sustainability, to ensure that we build their leadership capacity in those groups. Now, the loan repayment amount that has been made on in the crop intervention is being recycled and invested into the farmers cooperative. What Nuru does is to build the capacity of these farmers to be able to embrace and be able to manage these funds, so that at the point of exit, the farmers can be able to continue with this process. That's why I say we start our programming with sustainability at the back of our minds. Next slide, please. All right, I just want to talk about some of the guiding principles of the Nuru Nigeria program. The Nuru Nigeria programming is locally led at different levels. First, the local leadership is starting from me, being in Nigeria, as an executive director. Then, even though our founding parent organization is a United States organization, but the founding organization is basically now acting as our donors and our mentors. So this program is driven by Nigerians. We co-create all our programming with the local people. Then the cooperatives are also locally led, because we ensure that the cooperative principle or the functions of the farmer organization is actually built through the values, the existing knowledge of the community, just like Pascal talked about. One thing that is key, a key component of Nuru's intervention, is to be able to enhance the existing cultural competence that is in the community and ensure that the community are able to embrace the programming. So the programs are locally driven, they are locally owned because the solutions are basically co-created. So it is easy to actually say they are locally sustained. We don't just stop at the level of sustainability, but we also ensure that the programs are scalable. We just make sure that it is context driven. We tweak one or two things when we get to the next stage of the programming. We also ensure that because of where we are conflict sensitive, trauma aware, and we do not expose our communities to further harm. We are very inclusive in our programming. I think some of these terms might come up as strange, but I want to just say, in the fragile states, you have to be very careful. There are certain things that people have already gone through, that you want to be sure that your actions or inactions does not expose them to further traumatic events. We are also our programs are nutrition sensitive, as I have mentioned before, and we work through farmers group because the community have told us that trust has been diminished from their community as a result of what they have gone through, as a result of the activities of the insurgents. So we want to ensure that they are able to, their social cohesion is being restored. We also want to ensure that it's an agribusiness intervention. We want to build, while Nuru is a non-profit making organization, but the enterprises we are building are profitable enterprises, and that is the only way they can be sustainable. You know, we do some small ruminant fattening just to ensure that we are inclusive at all level, whether it is apart from just gender inclusive, but we want to ensure that we are also religiously inclusive. Our intervention is very capacity development driven, and then we ensure that it is sustainable and scalable. I don't want to repeat that. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, some of the program successes that we've recorded are like, we had about 43% household income increase. We have women inclusion up to 73%. And this is very intentional. We are intentional about this result. Now, why we talk about women inclusion up to 73%? Because in most cases, when we talk about Nigeria or when we talk about Africa, it might be a different context in other places. However, I want to say the household is basically managed by the women in the household. So any intervention that sidelines the woman is actually might not really get the result that is required, especially when it is a nutrition sensitive agriculture. It's a nutrition sensitive intervention. We also ensure that we are youth inclusive. I remember while Pascal started, he said the women and the youth included, because this is also to ensure sustainability. If the youth are not included, then it means you are going to drive a program with a particular generation, but it is not going to cascade to the next generation. We also do like a sustainable household nutrition program like Parma Gardens, where we do basically vegetables and other fruits that can actually be done at the household level. So we want to say that there is a clear, I want to go to the last point, a clear path to sustainability as was established during the COVID-19. During the era of COVID, I know that there was a lot of gap with agricultural programming because input supplies were halted. Now that is where partnership comes as a very strong tool. Collaboration comes as a very strong tool. Cross-sectoral approach also comes as a very strong tool. We have been working alongside the government of northeastern Nigeria. We've been working alongside other implementing partners. We've been working alongside security forces. So this is very important because when the era of COVID came, a lot of the development partners could not take fertilizers. We are actually banned from where we implement our programming. So we had to go get consent of the government. And now with one thing is getting the consent, the other thing is actually delivering at the point where it is needed. Now, how do we make the transport system to work? Because we need someone to propel these goods from where it is and then to where it is supposed to be delivered. So we had to actually trust in the people, build a culture of trust among every key actor of this programming. So we had to trust the vendors, the companies that were delivering these items. We worked with IITA a lot. There are also other development partners. So we tried to get the seeds from them. We worked with other local vendors who actually provided ag inputs for us. And we ensured that we work with other local transport industries. My team and I did not really need to go to the field before distribution activity was conducted, because like I said earlier, the program is locally led and locally driven. The leaders of the Farmer Association actually embraced this activity themselves. And we also have like the community field manager who was able to facilitate these activities. So my team and I actually had to work remotely and we're able to deliver inputs. And now we are talking harvest and aggregation at this point in Nuru, Nigeria. So I think it is very important, like it was mentioned earlier, that you work with every other sector in programming. Next slide, please. So I just want to walk us through. This is just like a review of what the Nuru program is all about. We identify farmers communities because that's where we work. We recruit local leaders, both literates, semi-literates, and those who are like emerging and aspiring leaders. We work through associations, farmer organization. We work to benefit the farmers, and everything is the farmers first, the farmers' family first. We ensure that the program can be replicated and then can be scaled in a new community. Nuru exits the community and the cooperatives are able to operate themselves. Nuru only comes in for monitoring visits and every other thing, and then we go out. I want to mention at the closing of this, because this is my last slide, I want to just mention that it is key for us as development partners to embrace the understanding that the community has some knowledge and we are here to develop capacity. I want us also to embrace the fact that, as COVID has already taught us, technology is a key driving equipment. It's a key driving factor for our programming. We should also embrace the power of collective action. That is very, very important. Whoever is on the field is a partner, it's not a competitor. So with the power of collective action, we'll be able to get locally led, locally sustained, and locally driven programs. Thank you very much.
Amy, that's amazing. Really so comprehensive and echoes a lot of the interesting themes that Agnes brought up as well, within a completely different context and adding the conflict piece in there as well. Thank you so much. And let's go right to Katembo and hold your questions for afterwards. Let's see, Katembo, are you ready?
Sure, I'm ready. And
all right.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Great. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you. My name is Katembo Faustin. Right here, I'm in Kigali, Rwanda. So greeting from Rwanda to everyone.
Welcome.
So yeah, and thank you for my predecessor for the presentations, which are really contain a lot of very useful information for all of us here. So now I'm going to bring in this context of Rwanda, and we as Guardians for Health International, we work with the community, the government, and different people from different sectors to try to see how we can address this problem of malnutrition. And our work consists of integrating health and agriculture. And the aim of this is to provide agriculture solution to malnutrition. So malnutrition is a complicated thing. And to be able to tackle this challenge, we need to really work together. We need to be inclusive. And that is why I really, I'm going to be bringing some notions of what Pascal talked about, the civil society, the government, the community, and everyone. So once that comprehensive approach is used, then we'll be able to really address this malnutrition. Of course, we know that it's under different contexts, but you can see the commonalities of those different. Next, and so I don't know how it syncs. My internet might not be good, but so the next slide, thank you. So here, the nutrition burden in Rwanda. Of course, in the introductory part, we were given a picture of how malnutrition is an issue worldwide, and especially in sub-Saharan Africa. But now in the context of Rwanda, as you can see, there is these interesting figures where you see that 35% of children under 5 are chronically malnourished. But again, it's in the context of population whereby 74% is engaged in agriculture. So this simply means that food in its own is not a solution to malnutrition. Because when you see this bigger number engaged in agriculture, and then you could say, hey, how can I see these people doing agriculture, but yet still having this number of children in malnutrition cases? So that is, it speaks volumes. Again, on this, you can see that there is a very big number of people who are affected by malnutrition, and these people are found in rural areas. And again, as we all know, most of the agriculture is done in the rural areas. So where agriculture is done, it's where malnutrition is again increasing. So this again is really posing some challenges. And so these are some of the statistics. I don't want to go line by line, but what we can get from this is that in general, children are consuming poor diets, regardless of how they're involved in agriculture, but the food consumption and the nutritious food remains a very big issue that people need to look at. Next. It is thinking really very slowly, but I can go on with what I have. So while it is coming, let me talk about the next slide. It's about the causes of malnutrition. So malnutrition is a very complex issue, and it has so many causes. But to start with, if you consider how intergenerational cycle of chronic malnutrition is, it's really interesting because, you know, before you get a child, then we need someone to give birth to a child. So, and that one who is going to give birth to a child is himself or herself malnourished. So you can't give birth to a healthy child while you are yourself malnourished. So it goes into that cycle sequence, and then, you know, we need to tackle it, not only targeting the children, but also targeting the mothers who give birth to those children. And that is where our approach lies. And, you know, we're not going to tell children about what to consume. We are rather going to tell mothers how to feed their children and themselves. So when you talk about the causes, I can just say that let's consider only two causes. We know there are so many causes, but let me take two bigger pictures of the causes related to knowledge and related to access. So when you talk about knowledge, again, referring to the statistics I shown before, if such a big percentage is doing agriculture, yet they're undernourished, then there is a problem of knowledge. We did some surveys, and then you could ask some people, and then when you talk about malnutrition, because they couldn't understand why you were telling them that their children were malnourished, because they could say, hey, I feed my baby, I give him, like, you know, a dish of potatoes and plenty of food, and my child is satisfied. So then how comes that my child is undernourished or malnourished? So there is problem here of understanding the problem of knowledge to know which nutritious food can my child consume. But there is also the food access, of course. There are those ones who can't afford food, but even if they can't afford food, and if they try to work for some money, and if they have less money, how do they make decisions around how to use the money they have in case they can afford some money? Which choice do they make? And this needs to be tied to knowledge. But again, with the access, we can't undermine the poverty thing. People are poor, but in that poverty, you know, we are capacitating people to be able to say, hey, yes, I have less money, I have less means, but in my little means that I have, how do I make decisions around nutrition? So now food access is a problem, but again, with the food which is available, you can still see that the children between 6 and 23 months don't meet the minimum acceptable diet requirements. And this for different reasons. First of all, because of knowledge, and second, because of less access and the poverty that I was saying. So now our approach will look on those things. You consider agriculture, you consider health, because
we'll give him a moment here to.
Everything,
Okay.
especially as a matter of fact, it will be seen.
We don't seem to, can you all, is it just me or is it everybody?
So I'm back. Sorry, I'm back. My internet
Okay, good,
was
great.
cutting. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So it was cut, but I'm back. So next. So here I was mentioning that knowing all these causes for malnutrition, then GHI came up with an innovative approach that we think really helped us and which is really helping us to be able to tackle this issue.
Are you there? Are you there? Okay. I'll give him a moment to get back. And we'll take a moment, I guess, to look at the slide where he says that at Gardens for Health, we couple targeted agricultural support with comprehensive health education, providing integrated model that tackles twin challenges of limited access to nutritious food and lack of education about good nutrition. Our ultimate objective is to use agriculture as the key driver of better health, so that nutrition-focused home gardens become a fundamental strategy for addressing and ultimately eradicating chronic malnutrition among vulnerable families. Katembo, I assume you're not quite back with us yet? Okay, so I will continue. So from a knowledge point of view, because they combine knowledge and health, the curriculum has a balanced meal approach, which is a 4-color approach. Oh, are you back?
Yeah.
Katembo, is that you? Oh, maybe not. So they obviously have a lot of great resources that they've created in order to be able to work with the communities to share knowledge and do capacity development. We did meet with them before, so I have heard a little bit about this. There's the strategies for preparing a meal in a resource-constrained setting, which is 1 pot, 1 hour. So it's the preparation and the women's time issues are factored into that. Information on hygiene, positive parenting, and related topics that contribute to early childhood development and to malnutrition. So that's the knowledge piece. Then we have the access, where the agricultural training is mirrors the agricultural or the nutrition knowledge. And so they've shown increased yields, increased income, allowing for better purchasing decisions, increase in the quality and diversity of food grown for household consumption. And Pascal, I know you're familiar with this work too, so if you want to chime in, you are welcome to. So they have a health center program in 15 health centers. So they go to the health centers and they do a combination of training, agricultural inputs, and supports for breaking the cycle of malnutrition. A 14-week health curriculum, which I'm sure that they share and would be easy to adapt and is specific to Rwanda, obviously. So they have comprehensive nutrition lessons and balanced diet, because we heard before they may have enough food, but they're not eating a balanced diet. And covering topics such as good nutrition, hygiene, family planning, breastfeeding and complementary feeding, and listening and communication. So once again, demonstrating an integrated approach there. You know, for example, with family planning, one of the best ways to prevent child malnutrition is to space births, if you didn't already know that, because I've worked on child nutrition before, so that there's more time between children so that the breastfeeding can continue for as long as possible. Next slide, thank you. Health center program. So it's a comprehensive health education that is sort of connected with the agricultural trainings so that they not only learn about how to eat a healthy diet, but they learn how to produce sustainably a range of fruits and vegetables using local resources. So they provide technical support with the actual design and planting of the home gardens, promoting crop diversity and dietary diversity. They start the family with seeds and small livestock to start their gardens, but they don't get a prescribed seed package, but they select crops from their package that will grow best on their land, most improve their diet, and earn the most income at markets. So again, several variables coming in there, including economics and the local ecosystem and family preferences as well. And they work mostly with resource constrained families, and as a result, their home garden model is designed to thrive even on small plots of land. So again, the context is really critical there. Here's a nice example of the home garden package with the different types of legumes, leafy greens, vegetables, and fruits. And the way that they learn about how, you can see over on the right, that they support different aspects of health. Are you back, Katembo, or no?
Yes, I'm back. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
This is
good.
so
I'm about to
frustrating.
take over your job. I'm going to come to Rwanda and kick you out of your job. Okay, go ahead.
It didn't break. It's strange that it didn't break when I was following others' presentation. Then when my turn comes, then it starts breaking. But yeah, but thank you for taking over. Actually,
sure.
I was talking about our innovative approach. Can go to slides backward. 2 slides backward, and then I was talking about the innovative approach, which actually take into consideration the knowledge and the access. Because for the knowledge, we have our model. On the knowledge, it's why our model is really, is really founded where we look at the context. And here I mean the context of people who work with those the most affected by malnutrition issues, whereby they are not educated. And then when you want to teach them, when you want to train them, you won't be able to have the same language. So you don't tell them like protein, oh, my child is well, and then you don't know how to tell them, oh, he's lacking proteins. There are some calories that you need, so they don't understand those. So here is where we came with the idea of what we call 4 colors, the 4-color wheel, whereby we talk them about the green, the white color, the red or orange color, and then the brown, whereby this will be representing every component of the nutritious food. So with that, again, we talk about, again, in the angle of contextualization, they're really poor, and then we know that they need time. So you won't tell them that they need to cook food and wait for 3 hours. Here in Rwanda, for your information, beans, what we call beans here in Rwanda, it's considered as food. Someone will tell you that I don't have food, meaning that I don't have beans. So, and cooking beans, their plate need to have beans. And cooking beans, which is in the color of brown, as we portray it. So it will take you 3 hours to cook beans. And then you need to go around and to look for money to feed your children, so that in the morning you wake up and then you give only potatoes and you are gone. But now we teach them about how you can cook that bean, which will take 3 hours, in just 1 hour with everything, in just using one saucepan. And then after 1 hour, it's done. And then you can go on, you give your nutritious food to the children, and you go and you carry on your activities without any problem. So this is called 1 pot, 1 hour, 1 complete meal. So that mode, again, as mentioned in towards the end, these have been adopted the Ministry of Health. Like when you do cooking demonstration using this model, it really works. And people then they say, hey, I had so many excuses that I couldn't, prepare my, my balanced meal, but now I understand that it can work. So that is really a very good thing. And again, about the access, we look at, the improved yields in the very small portion of land that they can afford. How can they produce what can provide some income? And again, how do they make some decisions about what to, what to produce on their small land? So next, I think it's where Anna was. She was really showing you the range of varieties of, of food and crops and vegetables. And then this is really very important for us because our program participants, they are considered, we don't consider them as beneficiaries. We rather consider them as partners because they are really very important making decisions and really making their choices. So I give them that range of, that range of varieties, and then they have to choose. So I think in the previous slide, you saw like the 4-color wheel and the 1 pot 1 hour, which I didn't want to come to delay in as time is rushing. But I wanted only to say that these program participants spend 14 weeks in our program, and they learn about a lot of things. When we talk about good nutrition, then they need to look at it into the perspective of those models I was describing, again, with this range of varieties of food that they need to grow at their homes. So during that training, they learn about nutrition on the health side. And again, on the side of agriculture, this is presented. And we have a farm on which we grow all these things. So we provide the seeds, the necessary inputs for them to go and make some kitchen gardens at their homes. And we're going to do some follow-up visit to make sure they are going, it is being implemented as we want it to be implemented. Of course, working with the community to make sure this is really inclusive. So again, the next slide, we're heading to the end of this presentation, a little bit of a few slides left yet. So again, to be as we have been realizing, so we try to do some survey to the families we've been working with, and then they could tell us, hey, if we knew, I think this is too late, if we knew our children wouldn't be malnourished, and then say, if we knew, we would have done this before. So we're coming up with a program which you call antenatal care to enroll pregnant women, so that we just take it before the problem happens, and then we train these mothers while they are still pregnant, so that they know that the life of the kids doesn't start when they give birth, rather it starts when they are conceived, and then they know what to do in that window of 1,000 days. They learn all these things, and then we are increasing the likelihood of not having the malnourished children. Rather than taking them while they're malnourished, we just anticipate that. So these go through all the sessions that I described before. But again, what I didn't mention is that we make sure to be inclusive, as the health center is the entry point. All those sick children are found at the health centers. And then we want to emphasize the importance of going for health care service, because you can't tell a pregnant mother who doesn't feel sick, they feel okay, and then say, hey, go to the health clinic. For what? So you need to tell them about the necessities of going there. They are carrying a baby, they don't know the situation, so they should really be careful about the life of the baby. So we have related topics, and then we make sure this is really understood by the program participants. On the impact level, here I only want to mention that we work with the government, and then we work also with different sections of the government to make sure we participate in the technical working group to influence policies. And one of the examples here that I mentioned earlier is that we've been able to have our model 1 pot 1 hour 1 complete meal adopted by the Ministry of Health and the community health workers in the community, who play a very pivotal role in dealing with these issues of malnutrition in the community. They have been trained, a big number of them have been trained on this model, which is really helpful in terms of them being able to, to deal with this in the context of their means limits. So now we are partnering with different people, with different organizations, the private sector, the civil society, the government, of course, and big organizations here. Like, for instance, the WFP, we partner with WFP to carry on these activities in the school in a program called School Feeding Program, whereby we are, taking our model in schools, and then the children, the kids at those schools, a lot of them, it was seen that some of them drop, others they only retake every then and again, because there is this problem. So we work with them, they teach the schools and the parents committees in the community to make sure this is addressed on a very diverse scale. So you can see different people, like we also work with the UNHCR with, I mean, to go to the, to the refugee camps in the country to make sure our model is also taken in the refugee camp so that they deal with this issue of malnutrition. So we've been working with a number of different organizations you can see on the slide. I don't know whether Anne displayed that slide, because yeah, my internet is really bad. But so my last slide, the last but one, here now, let's talk a little bit about the COVID-19 response, the COVID-19, context. I think I don't need to talk a lot about this COVID-19 response. Since it came in last March this year, we tried to be able to respond very quickly, and then we had some approaches of immediate response, but which I didn't mention here, of course, because it was a matter of providing nutritious food to different families, vulnerable families that really were struggling during those times. And again, disseminating different messages related to COVID-19 prevention and protection measures in place to give some also, some materials for protection. But again, here the problem is, if this pandemic is going to take years and years, God forbid, but how do we ensure that we are going to be able to strive within this context, with malnutrition already causing its own problems without even COVID? Now that COVID is there, what do we do? So here is what we take, again, a lesson from what we've been doing I just took it like promote an effective and resilient community-based nutrition model. And this is going to really, reflect our existing approaches. So we are going to leverage on our existing nutrition and agriculture model in nutrition first and then in agriculture. In nutrition, the model is there. How do we boost the immune system? By consuming nutritious food. How do we consume nutritious food? There are a lot of things that I described earlier, but again, bringing it in a context which is realistic, which is, again, I mentioned here. We need to be able, we need to tell that the community is going to embrace this. The community is going to be able to put into a practice and to apply what we are teaching them. So bring them down in a context which is really realistic. So on agriculture part, then we need to say, hey, now that we are teaching about agriculture, how do we make sure people are going to be able to afford, to be able to afford, and again, to have available, food that they want. So we are here promoting indigenous leafy greens and staple grains because this can resist to climate shocks. This can be available everywhere. And then we really make sure we are promoting this. So less demanding. So what can we grow which cannot go beyond the means and the affordability of the people we are working with? Here we have a manure, we have compost, and we have homemade pesticide. So we actually can make home-based pesticide to deal with diseases when they attack the crops or their home gardens. Again, in terms of sustainability, we teach them about when we have this home garden, how do we make sure we are not, we are not relying on someone else. We can be able to save our seeds for the next exercise of growing. We can be able to multiply seeds. So by choosing on that range that I showed earlier, which one can we pick, which is going to help us in making sure that we can be able to save these seeds really easily. In terms of resiliency, so they have, of course, I mentioned that there are vulnerable people who have very small portion of land. And then how do they apply techniques which are going to be really, to bring yields even on that really limited space of land using, improved practices. So there are a number of techniques to make sure they can be resilient even during climate shocks, during dry seasons. So all those, we believe that they're going to be able to, it's going to help us deal with once this COVID-19, if it goes for long, then we can be able to strategize and look into our model and see what can be helpful in this. And actually, we have started even working with our program graduates to see how this can be implemented. And the last slide, it's only like a call to make sure that we all join our efforts to fight this, to fight this malnutrition issue, which is going to be even tougher while we are in this very critical period of COVID-19. So I would say that I thank you, and again, thank you for patience while my internet was really bad. Really, I'm honored to be part of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have been actually pretty lucky with regards to the internet connections today. I want to see if there's any questions, quick questions or comments now. In the name of time, we're going to move on soon, but I want to see if there's any burning questions for anybody or comments. Okay, Katemba and Agnes and Amy, that was amazing. And such sophisticated programs, really appreciated. Pascal, I'm going to turn it over to you now for your comments, and so we can talk a little bit about the national chapters of the movement.
Yeah. Thanks, Anne. Thanks all. I would not go through the presentation. I would like to share with you, because I heard from the presenters and many of the dimension I would like to draw attention on has been extensively mentioned regarding how to build the resilience for communities when we talk about food security and nutrition. That has been really mentioned through the three presenters. And the aspect I will be, I have mentioned here, and I was about to share, has been extensively mentioned by the presentation of Ami. But let me look at some specific aspects that remain that I would like to draw attention on. The movement for community-led development through the approach, its approach aims to cooperate, to co-create the capacity of communities to exert the power to decide, to really decide particularly as far as food security and nutrition is concerned, but generally when we talk about anything that affects their life. A quick assessment about the expenditures allocated per household to meet the food and nutrition security needs reveal that a large part of the expenditures is geared towards supporting external business, industries based outside of the communities, while a small proportion actually feeds and support the development of local enterprises. The state of affairs could not really support or help to build a strong local economy, and could not ensure control over the satisfaction of basic needs, and therefore doesn't support efforts to build the resilience for communities. In this context, our chapter has decided, that is really an initiative, we are still working on this, has decided to collect information about fast-growing vegetable who has very high component of nutrients. That will be the first step. And the second would be not only about vegetable available at the local level, but also about the recipes, how they value it, how they value all those assets in terms of biodiversity of foods available, recipes, and how do they process in terms of making them available on the markets. What will be the specific aspect here is how do we organize a system to make sure that we promote the idea will be superfood fairs. The fairs will be aiming to let people know at the national level, even at the regional level, how we could promote the local foods, local recipes, local culture, and to create the arena where we could build partnership between civil society, including the community, the government, and the private sectors. I will not move to the details, but the assets is local resources, local knowledge, local recipes. Around this, we make good noise around this, and people come to know about it, and we develop through this, community develop through this partnership with governments and the private sector. That is the idea. We are still working on this, and I would like just to share, but we can see many aspects already mentioned by the presenters could be really go through that vein. Thank you, Anne. Thank you all.
Great, thank you so much. I call your attention to interesting comments in the chat that people have shared, again, echoing the systems perspective. And Charles, would you like to ask a question or make a comment?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, presenters and Pascal and everybody. Well, this is an issue that is really close to my heart. I work with agricultural markets, mainly informal markets, trying to look at the food that is in those markets. From those lessons, I'm beginning to see that maybe food and nutrition is more than just agriculture, because I see wild fruits, indigenous vegetables, and many other foods that are not farmed, but they are finding their way to the markets, which are really nutritious, which means maybe we also need to see how do we preserve forests, which provide us nutrition, where Mother Nature gives us nutrition naturally. For instance, there are fruits that are seasonal. And I've seen agriculture invading some of the forests. And then by doing that, they are cutting trees, that destroying environments which provide mushrooms that are naturally just produced. So maybe I see a tension there between agriculture and the nature as a source of nutrition. And most of these foods are found in markets. They may not be in individual communities because people are cutting down trees, but when you go to a market, you see a diverse range of foods. Perhaps there's a big role for markets, community markets. That's the angle that I would really want to bring on board to say, as part of community-led development, I wouldn't mind maybe exploring the role of local markets, which pull food, the convening power of bringing food, which might not even be in some communities. You see a fruit which maybe you grew up eating in a particular place, you can only find it in the market, but in the community it's no longer there. So maybe to me, that's what I want to bring, but I'm really glad this is really important. Otherwise, thanks so much.
Wow, very interesting. It does also remind me there's a lot of programs in the Amazon rainforest in South America that have to do with sustainable harvesting of rainforest products. And that kind of need to preserve different places in order to enable ongoing harvest of natural products is something we didn't even touch on today. And I just want to share my screen again and highlight some of our members that are here from our Liberia chapter. We have a new chapter in Liberia, and today we have with us Julius, Jude, and Betea, 3 active members of the brand new Liberia chapter. And the reason I'm highlighting you all is because you have expressed an interest in addressing agriculture within your chapter as well. And also, you have the issue of urban agriculture and urban food supply, which we haven't talked about today either, although I know you want to do things across the country as well. So Julius or Jude or Betea, I wonder if you just want to take 2 or 3 minutes to say anything more about your desires to build out your agriculture theme within your chapter.
Yes, I think I have the permission of my colleagues. Julius here speaking. I think I have the permission of my colleagues from Liberia, from the Liberian chapter, to talk about the aspect of our plans under the arrangement for movement for community-led development. And it will focus on agriculture and see how well we can succeed turning the Liberian nation into an agriculture-focused country, which we think in our mind is the bottom line for development in Liberia. Basically, we are now moving, as a means of advancing our plans, we are now moving towards getting people from leeward counties, having representation in the various counties and far parts of Liberia that can sort of buy the ideas and take leadership into the activities of the agricultural activities of community-led development as we plan them. And so in Mangibi, for example, we already have somebody representing us for representing movement for community-led development. In Bon County, we have identified a CSO or a CSO that is willing to put their time into it. In Grand Trunk County, we've already identified somebody that is willing, and a CSO that is willing to put time into what we are doing. And other counties are coming forth on board as Jude and BTA are doing some outreach activities, as well as other members of the Network for Community-Led Development. Basically, it is a matter of what aspect of agriculture do you want to start with? This is a question that has befallen us, and we think horticulture will make in our reasoning, when we sit down as team members and begin to talk together, we think to begin with horticulture would be a better approach. Because with horticulture, you can easily find seeds, you can do easy cultivation behind the yard gardens, you know, with horticulture, growing a lot of vegetables and making sure that vegetables the market gets vegetable to the extent, even though there is a challenge for road conditions and road connectivity in most parts of the leeward counties. the country. Now, but the vegetable thing is a process, and it's easy for the target population that we are thinking about, which mainly have to do with how women can get independent, do things independently. And with vegetable, we think women can independently grow vegetables and then begin to develop market interest and push their vegetables into the market in the face of more or less rural connectivity. Now, Liberia as a whole, our staple diet is rice. And rice cultivation process in Liberia is a bit difficult. So especially for the starting off, because it has a large scale activity when it comes to rice production. So we actually intend to start with vegetable and push vegetable, make the people to concentrate on vegetable and see how far we can go, maybe for the next 2 or 3 years while we are working on other things. I think Jude or Beatrice may have additional comments to make to that, but this is the way I wanted to start the discussion on the Liberian scene. I wanted to start it off.
Great, thank you so much. Let's hold the other comments from Liberia for the small group work so you can get a little bit more interactive feedback. So we are going to go into groups, and Gunjan is working behind the scenes here. And what we're going to discuss in the groups, first off, you can introduce yourselves, identify a note taker, and get the notes to me or post them in the chat. The two big questions are really, what do you think is the most critical to creating truly transformational nutrition for all? Perhaps what stood out to you in the presentations, and what additional ideas do you have or points to make? And then if you were requested to advise on a national plan for food security and nutrition in your country, what would you say? And how do your group's responses relate to what Pascal has mentioned of community assets? What should be the driving forces, and what could be the roles of civil society, government, and private sector? So as I mentioned, there's going to be 3 breakout groups, and those questions are in the chat, and also some of the people in your group have had them emailed to them as well. So let me stop here and turn over to Gunjan. And yes, Dr. Dali, I echo your thanks to Liberia for their thoughts, their framing thoughts on their work in nutrition. Gunjan, would you like to put us in the breakout rooms?
Thanks, Anne. The breakout rooms are ready. Everybody will automatically go into them, and they are for 20 minutes.
Great.
Yeah, okay, great. So you should all get a notification sending you into your breakout rooms now. Okay, perfect.
Welcome back, everyone.
It was too short.
Really?
It was too short.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have a second meeting just to talk. By the way, I put my email address in the chat. If you want to continue this discussion, let me know by email, because we were also having a really good discussion. We just have a few minutes left, so I wonder if anybody wants to say anything that stood out to them, or key thoughts.
Hello?
Go ahead. Sorry, there's a little bit of a buzz.
Hello?
Oh, go ahead, Jude. Let's hear from you, please.
Okay, I was just trying to narrate one or two things that crisis that we are facing here, especially in Liberia. As our presenter today, Mr. Julius, has stated the major food in Liberia. Right now, we are trying to engage in vegetable for now. But I see also looking forward to have a training, agricultural training, and train our people how to plant rice and how to venture in a large scale of rice production here in Liberia. Because these are going to also be one of the sustainable goals to keep our people going to have enough food to eat, instead of waiting when the government or importers have their own rice in the country and we go ahead and purchase it. So I'm looking forward in that direction with the help of MCLD and the Hunger Project and the other international bodies who have seen this program as a sustainable program to assist in that direction to help us move this program forward. So that is all I want to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jude. Very appreciated. Any other parting thoughts?
Hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, I just want to state my own assertion in terms of National Plan on Food Security and Nutrition. I want to say generally in Africa, like we need to stop the culture of stopping at the ideation level, because mostly we have these plans written on papers and in books. I can read through like the Maputo Declaration. So today in Nigeria, our budget is still less than 10%. Agricultural budget is still less than 10%. We have very excellent initiatives that are documented with pens and papers, and a lot of documents have passed through. However, I think the major thing that Africa needs to recognize generally is the fact that implementation and sustainability are key components. They are the key drivers for development. So if we keep writing on papers and stop at the ideation stage, then I'm sure that we will continue to run into recession, into food insecurity, and into malnutrition, like basic social challenges that we can actually avoid through all the documents if we just go through the documents that we've put down and then try to implement them. And I want to also state that like the issue of food insecurity for me in Africa is an urgent need. It's something that demands our action urgently. Like is the urgency not just of now, but of how. So I will say with your knowledge and wealth of experience as our partners internationally too, if you bring in the capacity, if you're able to build our capacity, we will have the how. But also we want to have the culture of sustaining the how that we've learned from each of you. Thank you very much.
Wow, amen. You are so good at putting those into very compelling points. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Frank.
I think I can do our group in a couple sentences. First, violence is a big restrictor and peace is necessary. Two, systems mapping, understanding the systems. Three, developing common goals and objectives throughout the systems so that communities, governments, NGOs, and others are working on a common vision, common goal, common strategies. And then building the system's capacity to communicate two ways, and for groups up the system from provincial to national to international agencies, able to listen to what's coming up and respond to what's coming up from the bottom.
Wow, you guys really powered through it. If you can send me those notes, that would be great.
I will. I got them. I'll send them to you.
Excellent. I can quickly summarize two things that really came out of our group was the need to really truly understand what is going on at the community level, because even the assessments and the reports don't necessarily say there might be food aid coming in somewhere, there might be NGOs, there might be money sent from abroad. So everything needs to be coordinated, and it needs to be based on the true realities of the people in question. So obviously they should be the crux of the whole effort from before, during, and after. And then the second thing that really came up is that we were focused on Liberia is, as they put their ideas together, they're looking for an entry point or a starting point. And we've heard about some different entry points or starting points today. But we want to continue to flesh those out so that Nigeria can figure out what steps it's want to take that are the most strategic. I mean, Liberia, sorry. Okay, anything else before we wrap up for today? It has been a real pleasure. Thanks again to Katembo, Amy, and Agnes for those really compelling presentations. And there was so much in common across them, wasn't there? It was just incredible. So that is peer learning and peer support at work. Pascal, would you like to close us out with your gracious words?
I would like to thank you all, particularly those who take time to present, and we learn a lot from the presentation. And it was really compelling. And through the breakout group, I have been with a group where we could continue building on what we learned, and I could feel that that was the same in the other groups. Thank you, and thank you all. Thank you, Gunjan, who has left. We will continue sharing, we'll continue building on what we have just started. And thank you for being partner in the movement for community-led development. That will be, yeah, bye-bye.
If everybody wants to unmute and say goodbye, it's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Great.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Nice to see
everybody.
you.
Great.
Bye.
Hi, Anne, how are you?
Hi, Dr. Rebecca. I'm good. How are you?
I did not sleep today. I was reading
Thank you very
horrible
much for,
stories.
Okay.
Buried
Thank
Oh,
you.
under
for
the baboon
yeah,
tree.
especially,
Bye-bye.
but particularly for the connection
What are you
with,
reading?
with Cliff and his group.
What are you
Buried
reading?
under the beneath of a tree, a story of people who were adopted. So I have 3,000 stories, but and it's similar to this, but I know the women who presented their stories. So it was so horrible.
Oh, that must be very traumatizing for you. All right. Well, on a brighter note, how is your grandchild doing? Your new grandchild?
He's really very fine. And the mother, although the mother, you know, the C-section is very painful, but she's doing better.
Good. And does the baby
Yeah.
have a
Good.
name yet?
Yes, he has a baby. He has a name called Joffrey.
Oh,
Our friend, and so they named the baby to honor our friend who is in a professor in the Center of Anabaptist and Pietist Studies. So we are really thrilled and very happy with this.
oh, that's very nice. Wow.
Good.
Yeah, so I thought that was such a great meeting today, and we should figure out what to do next, because I feel like we just started to scratch the surface. There's so much. It was also relevant, and I also feel like it's a little bit unique the angle we're taking on this. I don't really see that in other places quite as much. Okay, so I do have to run because I have a meeting with a very important person whose name is Gertrude in 15 minutes.
Yes.
I haven't forgotten you.
I'm waiting for you.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we'll see you all later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
I'll be there in 5 minutes, Gertrude.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.